The Roman Catholic Church have gathered for the funeral, the Requiem Mass of former Archbishop of Westminster, Cardinal Cormac Murphy O'Connor. 1,200 mourners attended the ceremony at Westminster Cathedral. The 85-year-old who died from cancer a fortnight ago was described as a priest to his fingertips. We can bring in now Austen Ivereigh, the former Director of Affairs for Cardinal Cormac Murphy O'Connor. Austen, a very good afternoon to you. A moving occasion for everybody involved. I
was there, Colin. It was absolutely lovely. It was very much him. It was moving, but actually very joyful.
For people who've never heard of him, what kind of man was he?
Well, I think that's the one thing that people would say about him, that he made people feel good. He was wonderful, had a wonderful gift for friendship. He himself had a great humility. He loved, spending the weekend with the Queen in Sandringham, but he loved being with the ordinary parishioners as well. He had that great ability to relate to people and make them feel good. And I think that's the one thing when I worked for him that people always used to say to me, that they loved the sound of him. And I think what came through above all was his compassion. He was an incredibly compassionate, forgiving man. And that made him actually a very powerful preacher of the Christian message, because he put that first.
You don't get to be a cardinal, though, Austen, do you, without being a little bit shrewd?
You're right. There was a canniness there. I think people have talked about that. He could be very strategic. He thought things through. He wasn't above doing a bit of planning. And Colin, you and I were together in the conclave in 2013 when Pope Francis was elected, and I think we both discovered there that the Cardinal had been quite active before the conclave in putting forward Pope Francis and suggesting him. And he had worked that out. He knew Rome very well. He had a lot of very good relationships there. And you're right, he could be strategic. He could work a room and he could work people very well in the cause of what was right.
He loved Rome, didn't he? I mean, he was there from what, an 18-year-old at the English college?
That's right. He went there in 1950, aged 18, one of 3 brothers in the family who were priests. And so he spent the 1950s in the English college, which is the seminary in Rome where priests go to get trained. He loved it there, found it a bit stifling before the Second Vatican Council, but loved it. Returned there in the 1970s to be rector of that college. So he knew Rome very, very well, spoke Italian with great brio, not always accurately, and felt very at home in Rome. I think the warmth of the place. But he also had no illusions about it. He used to speak about the need for Vatican reform, and that's why I think he's been utterly delighted. He was delighted in his last years to see Pope Francis getting to grips with some of the long-standing problems in the Vatican, and that's something I think he had wanted to see in his lifetime.
And Austen, just reflect on his leadership of the Catholic Church within England and Wales. We can't leave without talking about some of the reforms, particularly around child protection, which he initiated.
Well, he started as Archbishop of Westminster in 2000 and immediately had this great scandal of a paedophile priest who, as in an earlier diocese, in the Bishop of Arundel Brighton, he had wrongly, as he would later come to see, put in a place where he abused. And Cormac realised how wrong his judgments had been, and he said sorry. He took a terrible battering, but he decided to stay and to fix it. And he introduced some of the, at the time, most avant-garde safeguarding child protection regulations really anywhere in the Catholic Church, or indeed of any institution, and really became a leader in that regard. So it was a terrible, terrible time for him. He felt his own failure very greatly, but he stayed and he stuck the course, and his faith kept him strong throughout it all, and then led him to produce these reforms which have had actually a lasting impact for the Church here and indeed other institutions. And I think after that he really grew into his role and was as a Cardinal Bishop of the principal diocese of England, of Westminster, he really did make a tremendous impact in public life, in the media, and above all, I think, in parishes, and the parishes which he oversaw.
Austen Ivereigh, really good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you.